Look at your alarm clock tonight, right before you set it. You set it because tomorrow there is somewhere you have to be, something you have to do. For roughly 300,000 years, not a single one of your ancestors ever did that. No alarm, no schedule, no job, no wages, no boss, no career to climb. They woke, stretched, and asked one question. What should I do today? You will spend about 90,000 hours of your life working, roughly a third of every waking moment handed to a job. They spent almost none. So what did they do with all that time? Now here's what you probably picture. Cavemen scraping to survive, every hour a desperate fight against starvation. That picture is almost completely wrong. And the first person to prove it went looking with a stopwatch. In 1963, an anthropologist named Richard Lee tracked exactly how a hunter-gatherer group, the Yuhuansi, spent their days. What he found broke the whole story. Adults spent about 2.5 days a week getting food, around 17 hours. The rest of the time, they did whatever they wanted. And this wasn't one lucky group. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Ache in Paraguay, the Martu in Australia. Different continents. Same answer. 15 to 20 hours a week. You probably work more than twice that. Their full-time survival was a part-time week. But maybe you're thinking, those are modern people. How do we know the ancient ones lived the same way? Fair question. So don't take their word for it. Take the bones. Line up the skeletons of the last hunter-gatherers against the first farmers, and the difference is brutal. The farmers were shorter, teeth wrecked with cavities from grain, spines arthritic from the same motion done for years. They died younger. The hunter-gatherers? Taller, stronger, better teeth, less wear. Their bones say they did less grinding labor, not more. And then there's the evidence that shouldn't exist at all, if life was really a non-stop struggle. Art. In Chauvet Cave in France, someone painted horses and lions and rhinos 30,000 years ago, with shading, with movement, skill. Someone spent hours, maybe days, deep in the dark by firelight, not for food, for beauty, for something to do. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, shell beads 100,000 years old. The nearest shore was 20 kilometers away. Someone walked 40 kilometers, round trip, for shells, then drilled tiny holes with stone, just to look good. In Germany, a flute carved from a vulture's bone, 40,000 years old. 5 finger holes, perfectly spaced. They understood music. Here's the thing about art. It is the fingerprint of free time. You do not carve a flute the week you are starving. So let's reconstruct a day. Your day, 300,000 years ago. You wake at dawn. Last night's fire still smolders. Someone feeds it. You eat leftover meat, berries from yesterday. Breakfast is social, people talk. They plan loosely. Not because they must, but because that's what humans do. Mid-morning, maybe a few leave to hunt. But the key, you don't go every day. If food is stored, you might not leave camp. Instead, you sharpen a spear, weave a basket, scrape a hide soft. Not because a boss is watching. Because being good at things earns respect. And when the hunt happens, it's not the movie chase. You're a persistence hunter. You track at a steady jog for hours, till it overheats and drops. You sweat and stay cool while running. It can't. So you outlast it. By early afternoon, the work of the day is basically done. And what happens next is what modern people find hardest to understand. Nothing. And everything. You rest. You talk. You play with the kids. You groom each other, quietly saying, "You belong to me and I to you." Anthropologist James Sussman found groups like this spend around 6 hours a day just being together. Talking, laughing, telling jokes. That isn't wasted time. With no money, no police, no contracts, your relationships are your survival. If people don't like you, they don't feed you. So you invest in each other. Constantly. It's not a luxury. It's the whole system. Then the sun goes down and something changes. In 2014, Polly Wiesner recorded hundreds of hours of these conversations. By day, 80% of talk was practical. Tracks, plants who didn't share. But at night, by firelight, 81% became something else. Stories. Myths of how the world began. Ancestors who did impossible things. Jokes. Wiesner argued this is where human culture was actually born. Gods, spirits, the past, the future, the things you can only think about once your stomach is full and you're safe. So add it up. A few hours finding food or making tools. About 6 hours with the people you love. Around 8 hours of sleep, and hours of just existing. Sitting, watching clouds, needing no reason to be alive. And then, about 10,000 years ago it ended. Humans planted seeds. And agriculture is a trap. Farming feeds more people. More people need more food. More food needs more farming. Soon there were too many mouths to go back. You were locked in. And farming meant far more labor. Plowing, weeding, harvesting, storing, guarding. The bones don't lie. The first farmers worked harder, ate worse, died younger. But the crowds kept growing, and crowds need specialists, toolmakers, potters, then soldiers, priests, administrators, and eventually the job. The idea that your time belongs to someone else in exchange for staying alive. That's the moment work was invented. By the time we built cities, the old way was gone. Traded for schedules, obligations, most of your waking hours surviving a system we built ourselves. So today you sleep in one block and call waking at 2 a.m. insomnia. They slept in 2 and used the quiet middle to think. You make art if you can find the time, after the job. They made art because they had the time. We're not a different species from them. But we live so far from how humans lived for 99% of our story that we might as well be. We traded freedom for food security, leisure for numbers, time for productivity. So tonight when you reach for that alarm clock, remember, for almost all of human history, no one ever needed one. Your ancestors woke up every morning already free, already enough, with nothing to prove to anyone. They weren't working toward the good life. They were already living the one you're working your whole life to retire into.